Okay, guys, we will start. So, some of you have actually joined for this one day session. Actually, I've shared with you all the videos that I've done so far with respect to this webinar. In fact, this is not the fresh webinar, and I've told you already. In case if you missed the last session, this session was already taken on Saturday or Wednesday. We have taken that session, but I forgot to record on that day. So I want to upload that anyway in the application. So I'm taking it once more. So those who have missed it, you can attend. The same thing as what we are going to discuss today, like during from 1920, that phase, okay, militant nationalism, then all these August offer, cabinet mission plan, Wavell plan, and then non-cooperation movement, civil disobedience movement, 1935 Government of India Act, 1919 Government of India Act. These are the things that we are going to do quickly today. Not in detail. I'll just give you a glimpse of all these things so that you can refer it further. Okay, so those who have attended that, in case if you don't want to, no problem, because I've already messaged you in the with the mentoring participants and everyone. I've already messaged you. This is just a repetition. Okay, because I forgot to record. And for others, what I've done for you is those who have even subscribed. I think 4 or 5 of you have subscribed for this one day session. What I've done to you is I have given you in the application. You can see and watch that videos, previous videos, where I have discussed about from 1757, okay, to 1916. I think around arrival of Mahatma Gandhi. Up till then, I have updated. Okay, but that is a webinar, not the actual class. But 2 sessions I have uploaded the actual class, like decline of Mughal, and then you will see Battle of Plassey. Okay, and then I've started off with Warren Hastings. I'll quickly tell you what all things we have covered in that 2 session. Like you will see day 1, session 1, day 2, session 1. Okay, day 1 also 2 sessions are there. All are uploaded. That is something which you can watch. And then I've also shared with you the questions. Like 100 questions are there, solution is there. What you can do is you can take that test, but whatever it is, whether you're taking the test or not, you can attend. There will be a discussion for that test tomorrow. Not all the questions will be discussed. The important areas we will be discussing tomorrow. So this is a plan for you guys. Okay. So here I'll quickly tell you what all things we have discussed so far. But this is not a discussion which we used to do normally in the Modern India sessions class, because obviously someone cannot complete Modern India in 2 days, right? This is a 2 days program. This was a 2 days program, and we got extended to one more day. So the third day I forgot to record it. So I want to record it, and that's the reason why I'm taking this session today. So what we have done is we started off with Warren Hastings, discussed about 1773 Regulating Act, important provisions. Go through that. It is there in the application. And then 1784 Pitt's India Act. Then Cornwallis time, we discussed about police reform, judicial reform, civil service reform. Guys, if you're attending this for the first time, just note down these are the important areas. Whether you watch it from the video or otherwise, also if you're reading from Spectrum or anywhere, these are the areas which you cannot afford to miss if you're a serious aspirant. Okay, so you can expect a question from these areas. These are high probable areas is what I'm discussing. The minor areas, we can't do that. It is very difficult and it is impossible for everyone to cover that also. And it's all depends on the way you're going to cover your syllabus and the plan that you're actually making. But these areas are something which you cannot afford to miss. And if you are missing that, then there is no point in doing all these efforts. Okay. So what we have done is, and then subsidiary alliance we have discussed under Wellesley, and then Lord Minto 1, we discussed about Charter Act of 1813 and the impact of 1813 Charter Act. And then I've told you they changed their policy of from then onwards, because 1813 Charter Act monopoly ended and more companies started coming. So they need market and they need raw materials, and for these purpose they need to have a political control. They started annexations now. So if you see, there is a shift in policy from 1813 onwards, especially after the Charter Act. Okay, so the reason is this, and you can see Lord Hastings time, 1813 onwards, a lot of annexations. Guys, when we discussed about subsidiary alliance before that, they never had any intention for annexation. They just want to keep their army across India without spending anything from their side. That's the policy, or that's the idea of subsidiary alliance. But later, when they change their policy, this very subsidiary alliance, they can easily now use and manipulate so that they can annex areas. You can see Sindh will be annexed. Awadh will be annexed later, but these are the states which signed the subsidiary alliance treaty with them. Okay, and you will see a lot of annexation under doctrine of lapse. Okay, and you will also see annexations, with respect to different wars like Anglo-Maratha War, the third Anglo-Maratha War. The Marathas were totally crushed, and Peshwaship was abolished, and Bajirao too was sent to Vittur. Right, so you can see there, like once they establish a cotton industry in England, they are in need of cotton. So from where they get it? They can get it from US or India or Egypt, right? US already got independence. So if you need that raw material, you need to have that political control now, because that is the level of competition now. So they started annexing these where the cotton is grown. You know the climatic conditions, right? It requires some particular climatic condition and particular soil, that Regur soil. Where it is there, it is in the Deccan region. That is the reason why they have annexed. Pune was annexed under British territory after the Third Anglo-Maratha War, and Peshwaship was abolished. Okay, and later you will see Nana Sahib was fighting from Kanpur. Nana Sahib was actually adopted son of Peshwa Bajirao too. Why he is getting this Kanpur address despite being a Maratha? Because his father was sent to Vittur after this war. So the point which I want to tell you is there were a lot of annexations which is going to happen from 1813 onwards. So that is one of the most important impact. Other impact like deindustrialization and all is there. We have discussed it. Please watch that video. Okay. Anyway, once you registered the course through the application, all these are available to you. Just go to my course section. Those who don't know about that, my course section, you will find all these videos from decline of Mughals to up till 1916 Lucknow Pact is there. So there onwards is what we are going to discuss further. Okay, and then you will see a lot of reforms also, like Anti-Sati Resolution, Widow Remarriage Act, ban on human infanticide, ban on female sacrifice, Anti-Tughi law. Because of all these, the law and order situation, the societal situations, and everything was improving. But all these are also one of the reason for 1857 revolt. When you look into the socio-religious reform reasons, these are actually annoyed the upper caste Hindus, right? Because they started thinking that the Britishers are unnecessarily interfering in their religion. So even all these reforms that they tried and they did, the Indians were actually not happy. Okay, and later after 1857 revolt, when the crown take the governance or the complete control, you will not see any such reforms. And this Herculean task is actually left out to the constitutional makers, right, later. And then 1857 onwards, you will not see any such annexations. That means some of the princely states were left just like that. 1/3 of India remained as princely states. And that also became a problem post-independence for bringing them part of India. And you will see and you will study that when we discuss about post-independence India later, okay? So, and you will see the efforts done by Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel and all in the post-independence. So guys, this is the main points that we have discussed before 1857. And in that, Dalhousie is very important. Like you will see Widow Remarriage Act, you will see Anglo-Punjab War. Second Anglo-Punjab War is more important because Punjab was annexed. Doctrine of lapse, different categories of states are there. Not in all states, doctrine of lapse is applicable. What is doctrine of lapse? Everybody know. What is that different categories of states? There, that only few of you know. But guys, we don't have enough time to discuss all those things. I'm just telling you, all these have uploaded in your portal. So just watch that, you will get the clarity. Okay. And then we discussed about Lord Mayo colleges, first census, financial distribution between center and the provinces started for the first time by Lord Mayo. This finance commission and everything, that origin is from where? This financial distribution between center and state, which is started by Lord Mayo. Okay, I've told you first census, but not the first regular All India census. That is coming during Lytton's time, 1881. And from there onwards, every 10 years, you will see regular All India census. So if you get a question, who started census? Mayo. Who started regular All India census? Ripon. Okay. And then Lytton, very famous, negatively famous. Okay. Like Arms Act, Vernacular Press Act, lowering the age of civil services. All these I've discussed in the class, and I can see, I did not go through all the questions, but I can see some of the questions that we have given to you. In that also, these questions have reflected. Okay. So what Ripon did, Ripon repealed all these draconian laws which has been made by or brought by Lytton, and naturally he won the minds of billions of Indians. Okay, then when it comes to Ripon, we have discussed about Hundar Commission with respect to education, because Today also we are going to discuss a Hundar Commission with respect to Jallianwala Bagh massacre, the commission which was appointed to inquire into the police excesses during the Jallianwala Bagh. That is also Hundar Commission. So here, Hundar Commission 1882 with respect to education. Go through that. Very important. Before we have discussed about Macula Minute also, Woods Dispatch also. All these are very, very important, guys, with respect to education. Okay, and then local self-government, the father of local self-government, Lord Ripon. Census we discussed. There was a Delhi Darbar during Lytton time, 1877. There was a famine also at that point of time, and we have discussed about a famine commission which was appointed, which was headed by Strachey. The famine code was drafted under Lytton, under Ripon. The commission was appointed by Lytton, but the code was drafted under Ripon. Okay, again, you see what I'm saying. These things, these are not part of today's discussion. These are something which I have done on day 1 and day 2. That is already uploaded that you need to watch. Okay, so I'm just giving you these information that we have discussed so far because you will get that continuity. And I'm expecting most of you are attending the webinar, not the classes. Means automatically you might have attended classes and you might have read the textbooks and you are already in a good position. So we will go only with the important points here. Okay, so otherwise, Ripon's time we also discussed about Ilbert Bill controversy. Very important. Okay, that barring that a negative incident, otherwise everything is very good during Ripon's time. Then Congress, then partition of Bengal, then this moderate extremist, the Surat split, and then the first phase of militant nationalism, something which you might not have read too much or might not have studied in your schools as related to militant nationalism. You know about Mahatma Gandhi, you studied about moderates and extremists and everything, but militant nationalism, the chances that you might have been taught is very, very little, very rare, right? Because nobody wants you to get inspired with these bullets and guns at the very young age. So here you will see in detail, you need to study that in detail because they will ask you mains question directly and you need to write about militant nationalist. 1908, that's the first stage of militant nationalism. Why? What is the reason? Moderates and extremists, they were leading the, protest against partition of Bengal, Swadeshi movement going on. So somebody, extremist, wanted to extend that outside Bengal. Guys, extremist means, don't go with the word meaning. Extremist means involvement of masses. Even when we discuss about Mahatma Gandhi, Gandhi also have two phase, moderate phase and extremist phase, just like Congress. Congress also moderates, those who are going with prayers, petition, constitutional means, just constitution, stick to constitutional means. Okay, and even Jinnah, Annie Besant, etc., they were very much adamant to constitutional means. Later, when we discuss about non-cooperation movement, I'll tell you Jinnah resigned from Congress because non-cooperation movement is against extra constitutional means. They follow extra constitutional means involvement of masses. So extremist, involvement of mass, not using weapons or violence. That is something which you need to know. I hope you know that already. Even Mahatma Gandhi also, when we discuss about, there is a moderate phase in South Africa and there is an extremist phase. And in his extremist phase, he was more successful. Extremism, it's all about not the left-wing extremism. This extremist phase is about involvement of masses. That is the reason why when Mahatma Gandhi came here, he directly went for involvement of masses. Okay, so that is the reason why there was a split in 1907. The reason and the way it proceeded, everything. We just watched the video. Okay, once the split is there, then what happened? The extremist leaders like Tilak and all, they were sent to jail. Some of them retired from politics. Some of them left India. Okay, so the movement got weakened because on the other side, moderates were promised by the British that they will come up with some reforms, constitutional reforms. And that is the reason why 1909 Indian Council Act, you will see Mincho-Morley reforms. That also we have discussed, okay? But even Congress was not happy with that, okay? So what happened is after the split, these young generation, they were left with, any leaders. So they decided that they will take individual heroic activities. This individual heroic activities especially will come in the third phase that we are going to discuss during 1920s, HRA. But here, rather than seeing individual heroic activities, it is better to say they decided to assassinate the unpopular British officials. But that was not successful, guys. There were some attempts were made, but they were not successful. And we can say this phase of militant nationalism was not successful because they were not able to meet their goal. So if somebody is asking you, was there any success for them? No. They decided to strike terror among the minds of the British. And with that, they thought that, they expected that they will recall the partition of Bengal, but that never happened. They were not able to succeed. They were not able to assassinate. Okay, the 1909 Minto Morley reforms, Congress was not happy with that because whatever they have asked for, they have not given. And then 1911, there was Delhi Darbar. Okay. So before that, in 1906, I have discussed about Shimla deputation, where the Muslims, especially from the eastern part of Bengal or East Bengal, the Bengal divided into East Bengal and Bengal, not West Bengal. West Bengal is now. When it was divided, some of the teachers and some of the books will tell you East Bengal and West Bengal. No, East Bengal and Bengal. Okay, East Bengal, it is dominated by the Muslim landed elite. So they were very happy because now they are going to two province means two provincial assemblies. So they are, who's going to get the benefit? Eastern part, it is the Muslims who are majority and they are dominated. So the Muslim landed elites were very happy with that. Okay, so when in 1911, okay, that is the reason why in Shimla deputation they gave a written formal support to the English, and that led to formation of Muslim League and all. Then in 1911, when this partition of Bengal was annulled, why it is annulled? Because even though they are claiming that it is for administrative convenience and all, the main reason is Bengal was the nerve center of nationalist activity in our point of view. From their point of view, anti-national activity. But when this split and all, moderates and extremists, when they got split, then the nationalist feeling and that movement got weakened. So what was their objective? That was met. So they annulled the partition of Bengal. Okay. And secondly, the capital from Calcutta was shifted to Delhi. So these are the 2 points which you need to remember over there. But Muslims were not happy with that. Okay. Why? Because, Muslims are supposed to get the advantage if there are 2 provinces, but now that is annulled. So Muslims are not going to get any advantage now. Guys, then we discussed about this Muslim League and Congress, together joining hand together, like they jointly take the anti-imperialist stand now. Because if you see Muslim League in the beginning, when they came into existence, when they formed, they actually shown a loyalist outlook towards the English, because they told British that we are as loyal to you, give us this government jobs and education and everything. They are from Aligarh School. Aligarh School means Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. Sir Syed Ahmad Khan from way back is trying to convince the British that Muslims are loyal to English. The reason also I've discussed 1857 revolt, the long-term impact which you see, most of the participants in 1857 revolt are from Muslims. And also Wahhabi movement was also going on. So they offered a very tough fight to the British. Okay, in fact, there is the scholars, in many scholars' opinion, that Wahhabi movement was much more organized. That fight against Wahhabis was much more tough for the British than the 1857 revolt, because they had the arms, they had the weapons and everything. And they were much more organized than these rulers. Okay, so they started taking Muslims as their #1 enemy post 1857 revolt, and started giving all important positions to Hindus. And that's not a permanent stand, guys. Again, 1905 Swadeshi movement, if you see, most of the Hindus are turning against English, so they reversed their strategy and they started giving importance to Muslim. Now they started taking Hindus as their enemy. But 1916, there was a Tilak Jinnah Pact, that is a moderates extremist union. They decided to join together because they understood that without extremists, even moderates cannot survive. This 1909 reform was also not good, and the nationalist movement is getting weakened. So you need this collaboration, partnership with the effort of Annie Besant, okay, and Tilak. They joined together, and Tilak have given a lot of promises that he will not go for extra constitutional means, he will not involve masses and all at this point of time. Okay, so there was a Tilak Jinnah Pact. Go through that, and then Congress and Muslim League decided to take anti-imperialist stand together. But before that, very important point, 1909 reform, separate electorate was given to Muslims to appease them. Okay, so here in Lucknow Pact, or in the between the pact between the Muslim League and Congress was ready to accept the Muslim League position, or Congress was ready to recognize the Muslim League position on separate electorate. That means Muslim League position on separate electorate, not separate electorate as such. Congress is always of the opinion that we will go for reservation for Muslims, joint electorate with reservation. I hope you guys know clearly what you mean by separate electorate and joint electorate. This is not the time to explain all these things, okay? So the Congress said we are going to recognize your demand because Muslim League need separate electorate, so we are going to accept it. Otherwise, we are in favor of joint electorate with reservation. Okay, so this is what, and one more, what we have done so far is with respect to Mahatma Gandhi, his experience in South Africa that shaped him to lead a nationalist movement in India. And the kind of respect he got through his activities in South Africa, also we have discussed. You need to go through 3 incidents that I have discussed over there with respect to something known as poll tax and invalidation of marriages, which has not happened according to the Christian customs, and carrying this migrant license all the time with you. So how Mahatma Gandhi protested and how he got this political mileage and everything is discussed over there. Then when he came to India, 3 important events, the Champaran Satyagraha, Kheda Satyagraha, Ahmedabad Mill Strike. Champaran Satyagraha was his first civil disobedience movement. Kheda was his first non-cooperation movement. Ahmedabad Mill Strike was his first hunger strike. Okay, so Ahmedabad Mill Strike, if you see, that is against the Indian capitalists. No need to have any confusion. That's not against the English capitalists. Guys, details we cannot discuss now. I'm going to explain whatever we have promised for today. We'll do that in detail as much as possible with a limited time. But these things we've covered so far. Given the video, just watch that. Okay, and then why this Champaran Satyagraha is the civil disobedience movement? Because in Champaran Satyagraha, he gave a call that not to pay tax. And not paying tax is something which is illegal. So Mahatma Gandhi told them not to pay tax. So you violating a law. Violating a law is what? Civil disobedience. Similarly, when it comes to Kheda Satyagraha, what is happening over there is, there also he gave a call not to pay tax. But that's non-cooperation, not civil disobedience. Why? What is the reason? Because in Kheda, the peasants are already exempted from paying tax. Okay, so they are already exempted, like if you have a crop failure, less than 1/4 of the previous produce and all, you don't want to pay tax. There is already a waiver which is there. But they were illegally asking the peasants to pay tax. So what Mahatma Gandhi said, not to pay tax, it's just like you are not cooperating with the illegal demand of the British. On the first case, Champaran, you don't want to have any confusion, match with CC, Champaran, civil disobedience. Then no confusion. First civil disobedience in India. Kheda, first non-cooperation. Then you will see actual non-cooperation movement, that name itself is non-cooperation, and then civil disobedience movement also. But this is the first civil disobedience, Champaran, Kheda, first non-cooperation, Ahmedabad Mill Strike, that is the first hunger strike. Champaran related to indigo cultivation. Now, why peasants are not interested in cultivating indigo? Because German synthetic dye is coming, so the prices are coming down. It is not profitable. Secondly, the fertility of the soil is also getting affected. So, guys, all these things we have discussed in detail. Okay, and this was also one of the questions which was asked last year. So, this is what we have done so far. Now, what we will do is we will discuss about Montagu-Chelmsford reform. This I will discuss as normal, but don't expect the way we used to do in the class, but we will discuss all the provisions, okay? Now, Montagu-Chelmsford Committee recommendation, 1919 Government of India Act. 1935, another Government of India Act will be there. So if you know this one clearly, that is going to be some, extension of this only. Okay. So here, when I've told you about 1909 Indian Council Act, okay, the Minto-Morley reform, I've told you the Indians are going to be in majority. But there was a problem there. Indians are in majority, but what was the problem? Not the elected Indians. For example, 100 members are there in the legislature. For example, out of those, 60 will be Indians. That means Indians are majority. Okay, but that was not the demand of the moderates, the Congress. The demand of the Congress, why I said moderate is because that time extremist, that split is there, and the British have actually made the promise to the moderates only that we will come up with reform. That is why I've told you the demand of moderates. Okay. So what my point here is, elected Indians were not in majority. Out of the 60, like 40 will be elected Indians, okay, and 20 will be nominated. Now, those nominated members, they will be always with whom? They will be always with English. So even though technically speaking, the Indians are in majority, but not the elected Indians. So they were not able to bring any policies or programs. That was a problem. But here that will be changed. Now here, elected Indians will come into majority. That is the first point. But that's not the important one. Important one we will discuss, that is related to diarchy. Okay, so they have introduced diarchy. What do you mean by diarchy? Archy means rule. Diarchy means rule of two. Monarchy means rule of one. Rule of two here, where? At the provincial level. Okay, so they have introduced diarchy at the provincial level. Guys, when I discuss about 1935, they will introduce diarchy at the central level. So you can see any new policies or something which they are experimenting, that they will do first at the provincial level, then they will take it at the higher level. This is normal logic, right? Common sense. So diarchy, that means rule of two. Now, some of the students have always a confusion. If you see federalism, where, when, 1934, 1919, some of you, by seeing diarchy, may misinterpret it as federalism. No, by seeing rule of two, right? Federalism is also rule of two. But understand that is rule of two at two levels, like state and center. Rule of two. Here, one government, there, another government. That is rule of two. That is also, you can say, rule of two, but at different level. That's not diarchy. That is what federalism. Then there are other conditions for federalism that we don't want to discuss. That will be a discussion in polity. But here, rule of two at the same level means what? In the provincial level, there will be two lists. One list will be handled by the ministers, the elected members and their ministers who form the ministry, and the other reserved for the governor. Okay, governor will be appointed by the viceroy. Just like in our case also, governor is there and governor is appointed by the president. Similarly, here the governor appointed by the viceroy will be leading or handling the important subjects like budget and then law and order, etc. So these important portfolios are actually with the governor. So this is what I mean by rule of two at the same level. Diarchy, rule of two, but this is not federalism. If it need to be federalism, it has to be at the different level. But this is at the same level, at the provincial level. Okay, so that was the first and the most important provision. Now, second, women got the right to vote for the first time. Okay, so women got the right to vote. Separate electorate is continued for Muslims. And provincial level, elected Indians will be in majority for the first time. In the previous case also, I've told you Indians are in majority, but not the elected Indians. But now elected Indians are now going to be the majority. At central level, there is not much major changes. Bicameral system was introduced. Otherwise, there is not much change. Then there are many other points also given in the spectrum that you can read, but these are the most important point. Like direct elections introduced, High Commissioner of India is appointed with office in London with tenure 6 years to look into the affairs of Indian trade in Europe. Okay, all these minor points are there. Secretary of State will be paid from British Exchequer. That was one of the demand of the Congress. That was accepted. Otherwise, it was paid from Indian Exchequer. Now it will be paid from British Exchequer. Secretary of State, guys, it is after 1857 revolt, when the crown took the direct control, they appointed Secretary of State instead of Board of Control. Earlier, when company was there was a Board of Control with 6 members. Which act? Pitt's India Act, which was established at England. But now that Board of Control post was created, and instead Secretary of State post was created. Okay, Secretary of State means it is nothing but the foreign minister. Okay. Separate central and provincial budgets, and these are minor points that you can look into. They can ask you any points, but important ones I've discussed, and the most important one is diarchy. Understand the underlying concept behind diarchy also. Okay, so I hope that point is very, very clear. And if you call this as the carrot, what is a stick? They come up with the this policy of carrot and stick. This is carrot to appease the Congress, but Congress was not happy with that because Congress need more and more autonomy. Okay, they are demanding for provincial autonomy. Provincial autonomy is not given. Forget about not given autonomy. All the important elements are with the governor. So no autonomy at all whatsoever. You can say some minor areas like irrigation, agriculture, and all they are getting, and they can do something, but not the important area. So Congress was not happy. Why it was rejected by Congress? Because of diarchy. They're demanding autonomy. They were not given autonomy. Okay, and Congress did not participate in the election, which came after this. Later, this is 1919, so they rejected the 1919 reform and the election also. 1924 election will come. There, the debate will come. We'll discuss that Swarajis versus no changes debate will come. So, what is the stick here? Stick here is the Rowlatt Act. What is Rowlatt Act? If you are doubtful about any person that he is committing any anti-national activities, you can imprison him without a warrant. You can arrest him without a warrant, and you can imprison him also. So it suspended the very idea of habeas corpus. Okay, so I hope you know about habeas corpus and everything. So let's almost similar to that. So that was the stick, and in fact, you can see moderates at any point of time. This is against freedom, right? So they went against this, and anti-Rowlatt Satyagraha and all was there at this point of time. And when this martial law was enforced, some at this point of time, one Saifuddin Kichlu was also got arrested by talking against this, and martial law was in force in place, and some of the people, came together to talk about the arrest of Saifuddin Kichlu. So then the General Dyer fired upon them. In fact, the martial law was enforced, right? Automatically, he fired upon them and killed around 400 people officially. Unofficially, more than 1,000 people. Entire incident and all we don't want to discuss at this point of time, just giving a glimpse of it. Later, a commission was appointed to inquire into the police excesses. This action, whether it is correct or not, whether it is justified or not, the Dyer's action is correct or not. And this commission, do you think the commission will find any fault in Dyer's side? No. The commission said there is no fault in Dyer's side, even though he was dismissed later. There was no fault on General Dyer's side, nor there were any excessive use of force also. So that was the finding of the commission. And because of all these, in 1920, in which session of Congress? Nagpur session of Congress. Remember, Nagpur session of Congress, they adopted the resolution for non-cooperation movement. So they now decided to go for non-cooperation movement. Okay, now during this time, you will see the Congress decided to reorganize the Provincial Congress Committee on linguistic lines. Why on linguistic lines? To awaken the masses or to provide the political consciousness among the masses. Because if you look into Bombay province itself, on one side you will see Gujarati speaking people, and on the other side Marathi. So if you can divide it on the basis of linguistic line, then you can easily generate more political consciousness among the masses. So that is the reason why they decided. And also they decided that they will not stick to constitutional means. They also move to extra constitutional means. Okay, so here non-cooperation movement, what is the idea, what is the aim? Self-rule. Okay, Swaraj. Guys, Swaraj and Purna Swaraj are different. Swaraj means it's self-rule, they're asking. That means some autonomy should be granted, like the white colonies like New Zealand, Australia, etc. Purna Swaraj, later you will see 1929 in Lahore session, the resolution will be passed under the presidency of Jawaharlal Nehru. That is Purna Swaraj means complete independence. Here, self-rule. Okay. Now, one more point. 1919 Government of India Act. In the objective itself, they have made